Back to my video channel. So today we'll discuss the difference between the most important part in the PySpark Databricks broadcast variable versus accumulator, and where we have used what is the real-time example. So where in the project we can use and what are the type of the question will get asked. So the previously some of the our videos we have discussed the broadcast variable, but we'll do this here comparison. We can be like revise that so more detail. So let's jump into first like the broadcast variable. So the we understood that like the broadcast variable, it is the read only pieces of data we will share to all the workers. Okay, so in a cluster, this the think of it like a giving the some notebook to every worker. Once it is saved, each worker use it without reading another copy. So it's just like the understand the broadcast variable, it is the read only data. So once we like distributor, once we'll share that, and so they can read whenever they want while working. So whenever they need, they can read it and it is readily available. So if you like to understand the example of like suppose that you want to watch the movie, and the movie it is like the presently uh, available in the one of the city in the United States, New York. Okay, so if you want to watch that movie, so you have to all the way to travel to that city and you have to watch. So it's like lot of traffic and lot of time will waste, right? So lot of money, so lot of resources will waste for that. So that's why like, so if you want to that the watch the movie, so that movie can be broadcast to the different places all over the world. So it may be the OTT, if they broadcast that, so you're sitting in the home, you can watch that. So that's the way. That's the way the broadcast variable will work. Okay. So let's understand accumulator. So accumulator, it is like the special kind of the shared variable that can only be added by the worker. So what will do worker? They can add that, but they can't count that. Okay, so the every time, so whatever the value it is coming, the worker can add that and the driver can collect that value, and they can the final value driver can give. So the example is like suppose in the one of the table, if you want to understand how many null record it is there. Okay, so the each worker what will do, so the whatever the part of the data they have received, they will count the null value and they will send to the driver. They know the just the count, but they don't know the total value. Total value will be knowing to the driver, and the driver can give the sum of the value. So that's the accumulator work. Okay, so let's jump detail on the broadcast variable. One of the very simple diagrammatical representation I have given here. So understand the broadcast variable very simple way. Suppose here the driver and the broadcast variable it is the B. So look here like the worker inside that the executor, and the executor inside that the two tasks I have created. Okay, so whenever that two tasks for the executor, they need the some small piece of the information or the read only data for doing their task. So the we have broadcasted the B that data to the every worker. So inside that the executor whenever they want they can read and they will they can complete their task. Okay, so that's the way like the broadcast variable it will work. Okay, it's the simple way the understanding the diagram I have given. Okay, so here like once we share the data, so it will be read only available whenever they want to entire process they can read that, but they can't change that data. Okay, because it is the read only, it is immutable. Okay, so imagine like the take some of the real time example. You have the company and you need to distribute, or the you have to give the some notification to your worker, some policy, some guidelines, whatever that. So you are not going to the each worker and explaining the policy, right? It's the lot of resources, lot of time will consume that. So instead of what will do, you broadcast that, so you will publish that. So it may be the via of the email communication. Once you will send the bulk email, so it will go to the everyone, or you will be distributing to the shared location, so everyone can go that shared location, they can understand, or you will be publishing that to the shared board. So wherever that, so the every worker whenever they want to understand some policy or the some guidelines for some rule, they can understand, they can go there and they understand and they can like work on that part. It's not like the every worker we are like explaining. So that's the way broadcast variable will work. Okay, so how like the broadcast variable it is like the important here, because it is one of the we have seen our previous video if you're not like clear on that. So this is one of the way like optimizing the job. the Spark job optimization process, because here when we use the broadcast variable, lot of like the what we reduce the traffic or the reduce the execution time. So we are not going back and taking the small information whatever we want and coming back and using that. Like suppose the if you want some of the short form short code for each country, suppose India IN you want, the United States US you want, United Kingdom UK you want, or the France FR you want. So that's the small code you want from the one of the table. So you are not going to the each time to that table and taking that information. Instead of that piece of the data we are broadcasting, and so the where the larger size of the we have the uh, data, so that can be consumed. Means like suppose we have the some data where like the lot of information is available. So country related, some location name, the product, everything it is, that's the big data. Or like the some the data like the big table and when all this information. And for this we want like the whatever wherever the country we want a short name for that country. So instead of that we are going all the way to back to the taking that the short form of that country and coming back. So a lot of traffic, lot of resource will consume it. Instead of that, that short code we will broadcast, and so that's the big data or the big table it will getting used. So that's the way broadcast variable will use. So small the technical code we have written for understanding. So more detail we will like do the how can the practically will implement in the coming video. We can work on the practical part, but just understand here the small line of the code we have written, the how the country code for each short form we have given, and the how the broadcast variable we are broadcasting here the country code with that, and simulating the process how that the process will be happening here, and accessing the broadcast variable in a map operation. So we have given the one of the example here, and the collecting that to the print. So if you print that the map data to collect, so we will having the results. Okay. So let's understand the next part. What is the accumulator? So we understood that accumulator it is like the counting the values back, or like the collecting the some information from the data, or the from the task or the executor whatever where we'll process the data. Okay. So how it will be? So what we have to be count? So where it is needed, and the what are the important the necessity of the counting this data. Suppose take example one of the example of suppose you have the huge table, and in that table you want to understand how many null value or the null count it is there for each column. Okay. So suppose the country, is there any null? Or suppose take the address, is there any null? Suppose take one of the example like the street address or the pin code number, so is there any null value for that? So all this like counting. So what we'll do, if we want to count that, we can use the accumulator. So what we'll do, so that null count accumulator will take that count and it will send to the driver, and travel will be sum of that and it will give the information. But executor will not have the information. Executor just take the information and pass to the driver. So here the you can see in the simple diagrammatical representation here, the count of the empty records is first place one, the executor taking that sending to the driver. Second is the count of empty records two, the executor taking that sending to the driver, similarly one, and the last is the fourth. And the total count of the empty record it is the four, the driver is providing that. So that's the way like the accumulator will work. So understand like the in the real life, suppose you if you want to be like the implement that in the real life, or the you taking some of the example of the our real life, you want to understand that, take in your organization or in your the company, if we want to understand the defective pieces for the each shift from the each machine, so how many defective pieces is coming, so you have that data. So you have the number of shift, you have the number of machine, and the defective pieces related data. So if you want to understand the defective pieces of the data, so this is the way we can like count that, easy way to count using accumulator, and we can give from this save this machine, these are the defective pieces data we have received. Okay. So this will work like this. And so what like the accumulator can add the value to the accumulator while processing, like sorry, the worker can add the value to the accumulator while processing the data, but only the driver can read, as like we understand. So worker can only add the data, but the who will be publish that result, who will having all the information, that information having with the driver. Okay, so the small line of the code we have written for the understanding here, like the just accumulator example. Accumulator, we have given the variable here, and after that we are doing the some parallelism activity. After that, like the function of the process data to update accumulator, we have written the some the code to understand this, how the will return that value. After that we are processing that data and we are printing. Okay, so this is the way it will work. So the some of the basic comparison kind of the things we have given, the difference between the accumulator versus broadcast variable. Okay, the purpose, the broadcast variable, it is the shared read only data with worker, but accumulator aggregate the data from all the worker. Okay, and the reliability, like the readable by all the workers, here all the workers will know that, like means they can read that data, all the worker, but here the only driver can read all the final value, but the worker have their individual count, means just they will take and they will pass the value to the driver, and driver will have the all the end of the value. Okay, so this is the way. And the last one is the modification. Broadcast variable, it is the immutable, we understood that, and but the accumulator worker can only add to it. Okay, so let's understand the how the question will be get asked related to this, like what is the broadcast variable. We understand that. Okay, broadcast variable is the read only variable shared efficiently across all the worker node, allowing them to access the same data without sending it multiple times. Okay, what are the use cases of the broadcast variable? Broadcast variable are typically used for the lookup kind of the table or the reference data that needed by all the tasks in the distribution computation. Okay, what is the accumulator in the Spark? Okay, accumulator is the shared variable used to aggregate the data across the tasks, such as counting or the summing the value, but only the driver can read it final value. Okay, so can you give me the example when to use the accumulator? So it may be asked like, can you give me the one example where? So we have given a lot of example. The defective pieces, the null value, blank value, or like anything sale number of sale related blank in that column, or the address column if there is any blank. All these count or like some information taking that. So we'll use the accumulator. So thank you. Let's catch to the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the my channel. Thank you.